battle is heating up in one state. That's where a new bill would give public school students the choice to learn about history and literature using text from the Bible. And joining me now to break all this down, both sides of the argument, is Pastor Dimas Salaberrios. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, it's good to be here.
So first, let's take people through exactly what we're talking about. It's the state of Iowa, and we can bring up a couple facts about it. The bill would allow a high school elective that teaches history, literary style, and influence of the New Testament. Schools are not allowed, though, to endorse, favor, or promote any religion. So explain to us what that means.
I mean, first of all, I want to applaud Iowa. I mean, I think that's a great decision. And, you know, the Bible, all of literature, at least Western literature in one way or another, points to the Bible. You can't read Shakespeare without coming across a Bible verse. If you get into Nietzsche, you know, you have to think about the Bible, you know, Machiavelli, all these kind of books. So the Bible is an excellent tool for one, you know, for people to look at history on how kings were made. It's a great book so people can really study heroes and people that have come out of slavery, people that have walked from a farmer to a leader, from different people that are in leadership areas like kings and princes, and how people can really, you know, examine their lives, govern their lives.
So teaching it as history, not as religion. How can you separate those two?
You know, for example, I remember I was invited to a high school here in New York, and they asked me to teach a leadership class. So I said, I'm a pastor, so I'll teach leadership, but let me use some great examples from the Bible. And they said, why not? So we started to walk through different characteristics of people. The Bible, they're people that lived all over the world, crossed geographical lines. They're actual lives that you can see starting from beginning, walking, and these are not made-up characters. I mean, you can go to these sites. I took my children into Turkey to visit all these different areas of the Bible.
And that's the other thing we were discussing, just the geography and the lesson that you can learn there from the Bible as to what we're talking about, places we talk about today in the news. And as we continue our conversation, we can look at the other states, actually the 7 other states that have passed laws supporting Bible literature courses. There's a look at some of them right there. So it seems to be a movement.
Yeah, I hope it continues to be a movement, because some people want to look at it and say, oh my gosh, you know, I don't want to discriminate. But discriminating from that literature is, you know, is actually like you're saying, I'm scared of this, or this could really affect people. But if you look at even values today, we've gone from hard work to now, you know, material wealth. We've gone from hard work to, oh, my comfort. We've gone from understanding like things like, you know, patriotism or civil, you know, civil actions, to now looking at the different values of my comfort, my safety, you know, my independence. So, you know, these would be good things for children to read, for people to understand just the impact that they could have in this great nation they live in.
Not just children. I want to know the next time you're teaching a course, I'd like to come hear it.
Oh, we'd love to have you
Thank
anytime.
you so much.
Heather.
That was awesome. Very inspiring.
As you see from the Fox News coverage of the issue, it is clearly religiously motivated. And the entire issue is not whereas the schools are dealing fairly with the Bible or not, but the issue is the conservative Republicans, most of the Republicans, are worried that science is taking over the Christian culture and tradition. And I wonder what kind of faith is that a person inherits from his parents or get nurtured on since the childhood of that person. So as you, religion, whether Christianity or Islam or Hinduism or any other faith, that faith does not come from free will, but rather a person gets his faith from his or her group and family. But science is the opposite. Science requires that every individual should do his efforts to understand the way our world functions, and even to think about the ideal world we are dreaming to create. And I think that philosophy also can help us to deal with these issues, but not religion, because religion is like a jellyfish. You can change its shape, its size, where it takes different shapes, so it's not useful. And the arguments made by Pastor Dimas Salaberrios, like for example, first he stated that all Western literature points to the Bible. So Shakespeare, Machiavelli, and Nietzsche, for example, the examples he gave, would not be understood without the Bible. And let me discuss this. So it's very important here to point out that those authors, as much as they were influenced by the Bible, and surely the examples Pastor Salaberrios gave were not religious figures, and probably Nietzsche and Machiavelli were the atheists here in his example. And I'm not sure about Shakespeare and whether he was religious or not, but certainly they were, or they had more admiration for the pagan classics from Greek authors like Plato, Aristotle, Sophocles, Herodotus, Euripides, Aristophanes, or the Roman authors like Julius Caesar, Virgil, Livy, Seneca, and many others. The problem again is that it does not seem that they were talking about the Bible, but rather the bell, and I'm talking about the bell here. The bell proposed in several states took about elective topics from the Bible. The conservatives who are supportive of these bills will not be happy, of course, to see a professor dealing with the Bible in a secular manner, and that's why such a bill is problematic, because all what they want and looking for is to promote a creed that the Bible is godly, inspired, and you're talking about the historicity of biblical characters and whether they have existed or not. Any questioning of the moral value of biblical stories is unacceptable for the people behind these propositions. And what answer will they give to the question about the morality of God ordering the ancient Jews to kill entire nations, for example, and kill even the babies and domestic animals? What those Christians would say about the flood in Genesis 6 and 8, chapters 6 and 8, what they would say about cities of the plain, including Sodom and Gomorrah, Genesis 18 and 19, the Egyptian firstborn sons who had been killed by God through Passover, Exodus 11:12, the Canaanites under Moses and Joshua, Numbers chapter 21, verse 2 and 3, and Deuteronomy 20, verse 17, and so on, or like the Amalekites annihilated by Saul in 1 Samuel chapter 15. So these are just examples of why the Bible is problematic, and I don't think they will be useful to justify morality. Also, Pastor Salaberrios argues that the Bible offers histories of how kings were made, heroes, and people came out of slavery, people who walked from farmer to a leader, and I know he's referring to King David, and people in leadership areas like kings and princes. Yeah, like he used these models, kings and princes. And we will ask this important question: why should we build our values on a book that promotes loyalty to tyrants and absolutists? America is a republic, and that's why we don't need the Bible or any other holy book to be promoted. Secular studies of all religions are available in community colleges and public schools, but of course they don't like to see the Bible under scientific scrutiny, because when science and logic comes to the scene, religion and faith stands stands there naked and weak. So to introduce such glorifying classes for religious groups in public schools, and of course we are not against the freedom of private schools. So what that would be an abridgment of one of the most fundamental pillars of American civilization. Yeah, like America is established on secularism. So the Islamists, for example, in the Middle East and even in the West will be super happy to see religion stepping back to secular countries, to involve more in public schools, because that will offer them the opportunity to crush any liberal reformation of Islam, for example. And such bills are not just a threat to American civilization and the secular democracies in the West, but it is a threat to human progress in general. Pastor Salaberrios also is talking about the Bible as a source for teaching leadership values, and he claims that the Bible is about people who lived all over the world. But one of the problems with his claim that the Bible is all over the world, like the sentence he used, is not true, because the theater of the Bible is mostly the Middle East, Asia Minor, modern Turkey, and South Europe, like Rome and Greece. So it's not, it does not deal with the whole world. It deals with an area, specific area, nothing more. Yeah, the Middle East and southern parts of Europe. So certainly the Bible would be the worst source of creating leadership models. First of all, we have plenty of heroes in American history, and I wonder why the heroes and the leadership and the leaders should be always kings and princes and even presidents. Why Pastor Salaberrios didn't think about using Frederick Douglass or Harriet Tubman or even Jackie Robinson, who brought African Americans to the American baseball sport. I know that he might argue back that Frederick Douglass and Harriet Tubman were believers in the Bible, and that Harriet was called Mother Moses. But did Harriet Tubman order the killing of white babies, or like the massacre of whites? No, of course. But Moses did kill Jews and non-Jews to satisfy the thirst of his God to blood. And how about Abraham Lincoln? Isn't Lincoln enough to become a model of leadership for us? I think, yeah, we have plenty of heroes in American history. Also, Pastor Salaberrios claimed that there are the characters in the Bible are not made up. But this is also a big issue, and historically they're not proven to be true. Like I had personally, I took a class with an Israeli professor about the relations between the Israel and Arab countries, and I asked him the question, so Professor, do you think that Moses historically existed? And his reply was no. Like outside the Bible, there is no evidence whatsoever that Moses ever existed. So Moses is only like the whole story and the historical background, the actions, yeah, everything came from one source, the Bible, and especially from religious ancient Jews. Yeah, it was not written by even a Jewish writer from here or there. So finally, I would say that this attempt, it's not a good news, because if they succeed, America will lose its advantage of being a secular country. And as you see all over the world, what religion can do and how religion can divide people. And yeah, even though some people would argue that atheists, Nazis, and atheists, communists killed millions and did so and so, but that's not true. The Nazis were not atheists. Hitler believed in God. Hitler finished or ended his speeches by saying the word Amen, which means God hear my prayer. And also, communism is a form of religion. Communism is a creed, is a belief. It's not based on any scientific evidence. And also, communism was based on dictatorship. And so in the name of the people, they killed millions of people. So that's not science. That's simply another faith, even though it didn't use the name God or divine or any holy scripture. But I can say that, for example, that Karl Marx manifesto for them was, yeah, it was like God's message to them. It was holy, and one interpretation was only allowed, and that was the communist official interpretation. Just like the Bible, for some Christians, it has one meaning, no other possible interpretations. Or so even Christians among them, for example, and even Muslims, for example, when they deal with their book, holy book, the Quran, they have rigid beliefs. So each group thinks that only my interpretation is true. Other interpretations are not true. So this is a big problem made it to the schools, public schools. So in private, it's okay because each school, each religious school has its own creed. That, for example, a Catholic school will have its own interpretation. Protestant as well, Islamic schools, they have Sunni and Shia interpretations of their book, and so on. So in the end, I would say thank you guys. Hope to see you next time. I hope you benefited from this video.